What's up YouTube? Welcome to the latest episode of the Layup Line. My name is Dolos, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. With the NBA season arriving this week, I thought it was going to be a great time to bring back my power ranking series. The goal is to do 2 a month as the season goes on because I really like looking back on these and seeing how a team's momentum went. This season, I've added tiers to the rankings because I don't think a general 1 through 30 ranking accurately captures the small differences that there are between teams sometimes. So I'm going to preface this list by saying that look at the tiers as well as the number on the ranking together, because these are partially categorized by expectation since we're in the preseason. There's a small tier of title favorites, and below them are teams that I consider title contenders. Their fans will be highly disappointed if they don't have long playoff runs, if not win it altogether. But below them are the good teams. They may not have title aspirations this season, but they could or are looking for additional help to get them there. Under that tier are the works in progress, somewhat wild cards because they can slide in either direction. This group has a number of teams that made off-season changes that we need to watch play out. Finally, at the bottom are the rebuilding teams. These are teams that will either be bad on purpose or just don't have the talent to keep up. If you're new to these power rankings, I pick out 3 teams to talk about because there's just no way I'm talking about all 30 of them. My list will be on screen and we can discuss those rankings in the comments. I'd also really love if you guys commented down below which 3 teams you'd most want to see me talk about in the first power rankings for this upcoming season. Getting into my preseason rankings though, the first team that's caught my interest heading into the season are the New Orleans Pelicans. I agree with the criticism about their offseason. I actually like the deal to get Bledsoe and Adams off the team because adding Jonas Valanciunas was a good addition. But losing Lonzo was a head scratcher to me, and New Orleans is already paying Brandon Ingram a max deal. Zion will be getting a max offer when that's available to him. So this year is going to be a show me year for New Orleans young players because I think this front office has chosen that they are really watching who they think will fit around their Zion point guard style that they want to play. The major headline now is Zion's injury though. It marks a 3rd season of limited Zion action, and his weight and conditioning continue to be talked about, all while still being one of the league's most dominant young talents. I look at this season going one of 2 ways for the Pelicans. They could have another miserable year with injury storylines and falling short of their playoff expectations, which fuels the stories of a divide between Zion's camp and the front office. Or they could make some actual steps towards being a competitive team, and if a few more of the team's current lottery picks break out, that could go a long way to helping them get there. It's why they are in my work in progress tier. There are a lot of factors from injuries to another new coach, but I just happen to lean a bit more pessimistic than optimistic when it comes to the Pelicans season. The next team on my mind are the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers have a Kawhi Leonard-sized hole in their rotation to fill, so I don't see them having title aspirations for this season unless we get news on a return. If Paul George is out for any extended time, they'd be dropping into an even lower tier. But I think Paul George can carry this team into the playoffs, or at the very least a play-in level if he's available. They are a well-coached group, and I think that they have enough depth with their productive veterans to push through a regular season. Eric Bledsoe's an interesting wild card here. He went from being a legit sub-all-star player with his defense at the point of attack and his ability to pressure the rim while he was in Milwaukee. But he looked awful last season in New Orleans, so which Bledsoe the Clippers get could matter to how their season goes. I'd feel a lot more comfortable knowing if Serge Ibaka was going to be healthy and available, but that's come into question at this stage of his career. They don't mind going small, but that's going to lose a lot of effectiveness without Kawhi in the lineup. At the end of the day, this is more of a gap year for the Clippers. Be as competitive as they can while seeing if they can develop their younger players on the end of the bench and see if any of them turn into rotation players for when Kawhi returns. Paul George silenced a bunch of the doubters with his run last season. I'm not betting on that sustaining over an 82-game sample, but if they get the claw back at the right time, I could see teams moving out of the way to avoid them in the standings for the playoffs. And finally, the last team that I'm going to be talking about in this video are the Phoenix Suns. I've got to admit, I'm a bit of a Phoenix skeptic. That's not to say that I think they're going to be a bad team, but in my opinion, last year's finals trip was ahead of schedule. Look at it from this perspective. In 2020, Phoenix barely missed the playoffs in a season where DeAndre Ayton had to miss 25 games with a suspension. They then add Chris Paul for Ricky Rubio, and as a result, everyone easily expects them to make the playoffs. They shock the world and overcome even those expectations, and they land the second best record in the conference. They beat last year's preseason expectations, but I can't help but separate the fact that part of that 2 seed was a result of the teams behind them just objectively losing games due to injury absences. They deserve all the credit in the world for their finals appearance, but the fact that they also objectively benefited from injuries to key opponents is going to impact how I project the 2022 Suns, but it doesn't necessarily delegitimize what the 2021 Suns were able to accomplish. I think it's a fair thing to factor into how well you think a team will perform next season. But quickly on their upcoming season, I think development from their young rotation pieces can go a long way to getting them back on that playoff stint. Chris Paul won't be this elite forever, and the financial situation of the team just means that this is their window to compete now. I think they're a sneaky team to keep an eye on to make some kind of splashy trade, maybe looking to do something like the Nuggets did when they acquired Aaron Gordon. But that's all I have on Phoenix, and that's all I have in this one today. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm really going to be on a grind with the NBA basketball season coming back, so make sure that you're subscribed and hit the bell to get notified when videos are dropping. Really want to thank you for watching and making it to the end of this one, and enjoy the rest of your day.